She closed the door quietly, smiled at me, and refused to leave. What Maya knew about my divorce would change everything I thought I understood about my own life. Rain was hitting the windows of Alex's apartment when he heard the knock. It was soft, almost polite, like someone who didn't really want to bother him but had no choice. He looked at the clock on his phone. 9:15 in the evening. Who visits at this time? Alex paused the movie he was watching and walked to the door. Through the peephole, he saw a familiar face that made his heart skip a beat. It was Maya, his ex-wife's younger sister. The last time he had seen her was 8 months ago at a family gathering, right before everything fell apart. He opened the door slowly. Maya stood there in a dark coat, her hair wet from the rain. She had a small bag in her hand and an expression on her face that he couldn't understand. Was she nervous? Determined? Maybe both. "Maya?" Alex said, genuinely surprised. "What are you doing here?" Instead of answering, she stepped inside his apartment, just walked right in like she belonged there. Then she closed the door quietly behind her, turned to face him and gave him a small smile that seemed to say 1,000 different things at once. "I need to talk to you," she said in a voice that was calm but firm. "And I'm not leaving until we do." Alex stood there, completely confused. Maya had always been the quiet one in her family, the one who listened more than she spoke, the one who stayed in the background during family dinners and holiday celebrations. But right now, standing in his living room with rain dripping from her coat, she seemed different, more sure of herself. "Maya, look, I know things have been complicated since the divorce," Alex started, but she held up her hand to stop him. "Please," she said, "just let me stay tonight. We'll talk tomorrow when we're both ready." That's when he noticed the overnight bag she had set down by the door. This wasn't a quick visit. She had planned to stay from the beginning. But why? What could be so important that she would drive across town in the rain to his apartment? Alex looked around his place. It wasn't much to look at anymore. After the divorce, he had moved into this small one-bedroom apartment downtown. It was clean but basic. A couch, a coffee table covered with takeout containers, a small kitchen, and a bedroom with just a bed and a dresser. Nothing fancy, but it was his space. His quiet space where he could think and figure out what came next in his life. "You can't just show up here and expect to stay the night," he said. But even as he said it, he knew he wasn't going to make her leave. There was something in her eyes that told him this was important. Really important. Maya walked over to his couch and sat down like she had been there 100 times before. She looked comfortable, which was strange because Alex felt anything but comfortable right now. "Your place is nice," she said, looking around. "It feels peaceful. It's small," Alex replied, still standing by the door. "Small can be good," Maya said. "Sometimes we need less space to figure out what really matters." Alex didn't know what to say to that. For the past 6 months, he had been living a very simple life. He went to work at the insurance office, came home, ordered food, watched TV, and went to bed. Weekends were for grocery shopping and laundry. It wasn't exciting, but it was predictable. And after all the chaos of the divorce, predictable felt safe. "Are you hungry?" Maya asked, getting up from the couch. "I could make something." "You don't have to do that," Alex said quickly. "I usually just order something." "I know," she said, with that same mysterious smile. "But I want to cook tonight." She walked into his small kitchen and started opening cabinets like she knew where everything was. Alex watched her, feeling more confused by the minute. How did she know where his plates were? Why was she acting so comfortable in his space? "Maya," he said, following her into the kitchen. "What's really going on here? Why aren't you at home? With your family? Why are you here in my apartment acting like this is normal?" She turned to look at him while holding a box of pasta she had found in his cabinet. For a moment, her confident mask slipped, and he saw something else in her eyes, something that looked like sadness mixed with determination. "Because," she said quietly, "there are things you need to know, important things. And I've been carrying them around for too long." "What kind of things?" Maya turned back to the stove and started filling a pot with water. The kind of things that change everything you thought you knew about your marriage, about your divorce, about why everything happened the way it did. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. His divorce had been painful and confusing. His ex-wife had seemed to change overnight, becoming cold and distant. She had accused him of things that weren't true and made him question everything about himself. For months he had wondered what he had done wrong, what he could have done differently. "I don't want to talk about the divorce," Alex said. "It's over. I've moved on." Maya turned off the water and looked at him again. This time her expression was gentle but serious. "Have you really moved on, Alex, or are you just hiding from the truth?" He wanted to argue with her, to tell her that he was fine, that he didn't need anyone's help or explanations. But standing there in his small kitchen looking at this woman who had always been kind to him, even when her own family had turned against him, he realized that maybe he hadn't moved on at all. Maybe he had just been surviving. "I'll sleep on the couch," Maya said, turning back to the stove. "Tomorrow when you're ready, we'll talk about everything. But tonight, let me just be here. Let me cook you dinner and remind you that not everyone in my family forgot that you're a good person." Alex stood there for a long moment watching her work in his kitchen. Outside, the rain kept falling, and inside something was shifting in a way that he couldn't quite understand yet. All he knew was that for the first time in months his apartment didn't feel quite so empty. The next morning Alex woke up to the smell of coffee brewing in his kitchen. For a moment he forgot that Maya was there, and the familiar sound made him feel like he was back in his old life. But then reality hit him. His ex-wife never made coffee this early. She was always rushing to get ready for work. He walked into the kitchen and found Maya standing by the window, holding a steaming mug. She was wearing one of his old t-shirts and looked completely at home in his space. It should have felt weird, but somehow it didn't. "Good morning," she said without turning around. "I hope you don't mind that I borrowed this shirt. My clothes got soaked last night." "It's fine," Alex said, pouring himself a cup of coffee. "Did you sleep okay on the couch?" "Better than I have in weeks," Maya replied, finally turning to look at him. "We need to talk, Alex." There it was again, that serious tone that told him this conversation wasn't going to be easy. Alex sat down at his small dining table and waited for her to join him. Maya sat across from him and took a deep breath. "I need to tell you something that's going to upset you, but you deserve to know the truth about what happened during your divorce." Alex felt his stomach tighten. "Maya, I don't want to rehash all of that. It's over." "It's not over for you," she said quietly. "I can see it in the way you live now. This apartment, your routine, the way you've cut yourself off from everyone. You're not living, Alex, you're just existing." He wanted to argue with her, but she was right. He had been going through the motions of life without really feeling anything. Work, home, sleep, repeat. It was safe, but it wasn't really living. "During the divorce," Maya continued, "Lisa asked me to help her with something. She said she was worried about you, that she thought you might do something unpredictable." Alex looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" Maya stared into her coffee cup, clearly uncomfortable with what she was about to say. "She asked me to keep an eye on you, to follow you sometimes and let her know how you were doing." The words hit Alex like a punch to the chest. "You were spying on me?" "I thought I was helping," Maya said quickly. "Lisa made it sound like she was concerned about your mental health. She said you had been acting strange and she was worried you might hurt yourself or disappear completely." Alex stood up from the table, anger building in his chest. "So you followed me around like some kind of detective. I watched you from coffee shops when you were there. I saw you at the grocery store a few times. I kept track of your daily routine and reported back to Lisa about whether you seemed okay." Maya's voice was barely above a whisper now. "I thought I was doing the right thing." Alex paced around his small kitchen trying to process what he was hearing. During some of the worst months of his life, when he was struggling to understand why his marriage had fallen apart, his ex-wife's sister had been watching him like he was some kind of dangerous person. "How long?" he asked, his voice tight with anger. 3 months, Maya admitted. From February until May, right before the divorce was finalized. Alex remembered those months. He had felt paranoid sometimes, like someone was watching him. He had thought it was just his imagination, a side effect of the stress and depression he was dealing with. But it had been real. Maya had actually been there, watching him eat alone at restaurants, seeing him struggle through the grocery store, observing his loneliness from a distance. "But Alex," Maya said, standing up and moving closer to him. "Something changed during those months. The more I watched you, the more I realized that Lisa was wrong about everything." "Wrong about what?" Maya took another deep breath, like she was preparing to jump off a cliff. "She painted you as this angry, unpredictable person who might cause problems. But that's not what I saw. I saw a man who was heartbroken and confused, trying to figure out what went wrong. I saw someone who was gentle and considerate, even when he was falling apart." Alex stopped pacing and looked at her. There were tears in her eyes now. "I saw you help an elderly woman carry her groceries to her car at the supermarket. I watched you give money to a homeless man outside the coffee shop, even though you barely had enough for your own food. I saw you sitting alone in the park, feeding pigeons, looking like you had lost everything that mattered to you." The anger in Alex's chest started to mix with something else. Confusion, maybe even a little bit of gratitude. "Lisa told everyone you were bitter and angry," Maya continued. "But I never saw that. Even when you had every right to be furious, you were just sad. And that made me start questioning everything Lisa had told me about why the marriage ended." Alex sat back down at the table, feeling exhausted. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying that I think you deserved better than what happened to you. And I think Lisa knew it too, which is why she wanted someone to watch you. She was afraid of what people would think if they saw how you were really handling the divorce." Maya reached across the table and touched his hand gently. "I'm sorry I spied on you, Alex. I thought I was protecting you, but I was really just helping Lisa control the narrative about your marriage." Alex looked down at her hand on his. It was warm and comforting in a way that surprised him. For months, he had felt like everyone in Lisa's family saw him as the villain in the story of his failed marriage, but Maya had seen something different. "Why are you telling me this now?" he asked. Maya pulled her hand back and looked out the window again. "Because there's more. Things I learned that made me realize just how wrong I was to help Lisa. Things that made me understand why she really wanted me to watch you." Alex felt that familiar knot in his stomach again. "What things?" "Things that are going to change how you see everything that happened," Maya said. "But I need you to promise me something." "First, what?" "Promise me that when I tell you the rest, you won't do anything stupid. Don't call Lisa, don't try to confront anyone. Just listen and let me help you figure out what to do with the information." Alex studied Maya's face. She looked scared, but determined, like someone who had been carrying a heavy weight for too long and was finally ready to put it down. "Okay," he said quietly. "I promise." Maya nodded and stood up from the table. "Good. But not yet. Let me make us some breakfast first. The rest of this story is going to be hard to hear, and you'll need your strength for what comes next." After breakfast, Maya and Alex sat on his couch with fresh cups of coffee. The morning sun was streaming through the windows, making everything feel almost normal. But Alex could sense that Maya was building up to something big. She kept fidgeting, with her coffee mug and looking anywhere except at him. "The hardest part about what I'm going to tell you," Maya finally said, "is that I could have told you months ago, but I was scared, and I didn't know if it was my place to get involved." "Just tell me," Alex said gently. "Whatever it is, I can handle it." Maya set down her coffee and pulled out her phone. "In March, about a month after I started watching you for Lisa, something happened that changed everything for me." She scrolled through her photos until she found what she was looking for. Then she hesitated, her finger hovering over the screen. "I was sitting in a coffee shop downtown, the one near your office," she began. "I had been there for about an hour, waiting to see if you showed up for your usual afternoon coffee, but you didn't come that day." Alex remembered March. Those were some of the darkest days of the divorce proceedings. He had stopped doing a lot of his normal activities because everything reminded him of his failed marriage. "I was about to leave when I saw someone I recognized walk in," Maya continued. "It was Lisa. She was with someone and they were holding hands." Alex felt his heart skip a beat. Who was she with? Maya looked directly at him for the first time since she had started talking. Your friend Ryan. Your best friend Ryan. The words hung in the air between them like a bomb that had just exploded. Alex felt like he couldn't breathe. Ryan had been his closest friend since college. Ryan had been his best man at his wedding. Ryan had been the one consoling him during the divorce, telling him that Lisa was just going through a hard time and that maybe they could work things out. That's impossible, Alex said. But even as he said it, pieces started falling into place in his mind. The way Ryan always seemed to know details about Lisa's feelings that Alex didn't know. The way Ryan had insisted on staying in touch with Lisa after the divorce, claiming he wanted to help them communicate better. I took pictures, Maya said quietly, holding up her phone. I didn't know what else to do. I was so shocked that I just started taking photos without thinking. She showed him the first picture. It was Lisa and Ryan sitting at a corner table. In the coffee shop, their hands intertwined on the table between them. Lisa was laughing at something Ryan had said. They looked comfortable together, like a couple who had been together for a while. There's more, Maya said, swiping to the next photo. This one showed Ryan leaning across the table to kiss Lisa softly on the lips. It was clearly not a friendly kiss between people who were just supporting each other through a difficult time. Alex stared at the photo, feeling like his entire understanding of the last year was crumbling around him. When was this taken? March 15th, Maya said. 3 weeks before Lisa filed for divorce. Alex did the math in his head. The divorce papers had been filed in early April. Lisa had told him she needed space to think, that she wasn't sure if they could work through their problems. But she had already been seeing Ryan. She had been planning to leave him while she was still sleeping in their shared bed, still kissing him goodbye in the morning, still pretending to work on their marriage. There's more, Maya said again, her voice even quieter now. She swiped through several more photos. Lisa and Ryan walking out of the coffee shop together. Lisa and Ryan getting into Ryan's car. And then, a photo that made Alex's stomach turn. It was taken from across the street and showed Lisa and Ryan going into Ryan's apartment building together, Ryan's arm around Lisa's waist. I followed them, Maya admitted. I know it was wrong, but I was so confused about what I was seeing. Lisa had told me she was worried about your mental health, but here she was, clearly involved with your best friend while you were falling apart. Alex set the phone down on the coffee table and put his head in his hands. Everything made sense now. The way Lisa had been so confident during the divorce proceedings. The way she had seemed to know exactly what to say to hurt him most. The way Ryan had always been available to talk, always ready with advice about how to handle Lisa's mood swings. They had been planning this, Alex said, the realization hitting him like a freight train. The whole time they had been planning this. I think so, Maya agreed. And I think that's why Lisa wanted me to watch you. She was afraid that if you found out about Ryan, you might cause problems for them. She wanted to make sure you were handling the divorce quietly, without asking too many questions or digging too deep into why she suddenly wanted out. Alex looked up at Maya, seeing her clearly for the first time since she had arrived. And you've been carrying this around for months? Why didn't you tell me sooner? Maya's eyes filled with tears. Because I was a coward. Because Lisa is my sister, and I didn't want to be the one to destroy what was left of our family. Because I was afraid you wouldn't believe me, or that you'd think I was just trying to cause trouble. But you're telling me now. Yes, Maya said, wiping her eyes. Because I realized that staying silent was destroying me. Every time Lisa talked about how difficult you were being, every time she painted you as the bad guy in the story, I felt sick. You weren't the problem, Alex. You were just the only person who didn't know what was really happening. Alex stood up and walked to the window. His mind was racing with memories, re-examining every conversation he had with Lisa and Ryan during the divorce. How many times had Ryan encouraged him to give Lisa space? How many times had Ryan suggested that Alex was being too needy or too demanding? There's something else, Maya said from behind him. Something that made me finally decide to come here and tell you everything. Alex turned around. What now? Last week I overheard Lisa talking to our mom about you. She was laughing about how easy it had been to convince you that the marriage problems were your fault. She said you were so eager to blame yourself that she barely had to work at it. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place for Alex. Lisa hadn't just cheated on him. She had systematically manipulated him into believing that he was responsible for the failure of their marriage. She had used his love for her and his desire to fix things against him, all while planning her new life with his best friend. "I'm sorry," Maya said, standing up and walking over to him. "I'm so sorry I waited this long to tell you. I'm sorry I helped her by spying on you. I'm sorry you've spent all these months thinking you were the reason your marriage failed." Alex looked down at Maya, this woman who had been brave enough to finally tell him the truth, even though it meant betraying her own family. For the first time in months, he felt something other than sadness and confusion. He felt angry, yes, but also something else. Relief. Finally, everything made sense. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Thank you for telling me." Maya reached out and took his hand. "What are you going to do now that you know?" Alex squeezed her hand gently and looked out the window at the city below. For the first time since his divorce, he felt like he could see clearly. The fog of self-doubt and depression that had been surrounding him for months was finally starting to lift. "I don't know yet," he said honestly. "But whatever I do, I'm glad I won't be doing it alone." 3 days had passed since Maya's revelation, and she was still there. Alex had stopped asking when she was planning to leave, partly because he didn't want her to go, and partly because she seemed to have made herself completely at home in his small apartment. They had fallen into an easy routine that surprised them both. Maya would wake up first and make coffee while Alex showered. They would eat breakfast together, talking about everything except the complicated situation they found themselves in. Then Alex would go to work, and when he came home, Maya would have dinner ready, and they would spend the evening talking on his couch. It was the most normal his life had felt in months, but there was an underlying tension that neither of them wanted to address. What were they doing? What did this mean? And what would happen when Maya eventually had to go back to her real life? On Thursday evening, Alex came home to find Maya sitting on his couch with her phone in her hands, staring at the screen with a worried expression. "Everything okay?" he asked, setting down his work bag. Maya looked up at him with troubled eyes. "Lisa's been calling me all day. She knows I'm here." Alex felt his stomach drop. "How does she know?" "I'm not sure. Maybe someone saw me coming into your building. Maybe she drove by and saw my car parked outside." Maya set her phone down on the coffee table. "She's left me 12 messages today." Alex sat down next to her on the couch. "What do the messages say?" "The first few were asking where I was and why I wasn't answering her calls. Then they got angry. She's demanding that I come home immediately and stop whatever game I'm playing." Maya looked at Alex with an expression that was part fear, part determination. "The last one said that if I don't call her back by tonight, she's going to come here herself." Alex ran his hands through his hair. He had been dreading this moment since Maya first walked through his door. He knew that eventually they would have to deal with the outside world and all the complications that came with it. "Maybe you should call her back," Alex said, though the thought of Maya leaving made his chest feel tight. "And say what?" Maya asked. "That I've been here for 3 days because I finally told you the truth about her relationship with Ryan? That I'm tired of watching my sister destroy people while everyone pretends she's the victim?" Alex looked at Maya, really looked at her, and realized that something fundamental had changed in her over the past few days. The quiet, reserved woman who had always stayed in the background during family gatherings was gone. In her place was someone who spoke her mind and stood up for what she believed was right. "You've changed," he said quietly. Maya smiled, but it was a sad smile. "I think I've just finally become who I was supposed to be all along. It just took watching you suffer for months to give me the courage to stop being a coward." They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, both lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Maya spoke again. "Alex, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "When you were married to Lisa, were you happy? Really happy, I mean. Not just going through the motions, but actually fulfilled and content?" Alex thought about the question, seriously. It was something he had avoided examining too closely even before the divorce. "I thought I was," he said slowly. "But looking back now, I think I was working so hard to make Lisa happy that I forgot to pay attention to whether I was happy." "What do you mean?" "Lisa always had very specific ideas about how things should be, how our house should look, what kind of social life we should have, what our future should look like, and I went along with all of it because I thought that's what marriage was supposed to be like. Compromise and teamwork." Maya nodded, encouraging him to continue. "But it wasn't really compromise, was it? It was me changing myself to fit into the life Lisa wanted while she never had to change anything about herself." Alex leaned back against the couch. "I convinced myself that her happiness was more important than mine because I loved her. But love shouldn't require you to disappear." "No," Maya agreed. "It shouldn't." "What about you?" Alex asked. "Have you ever been happy? I mean really happy, not just comfortable or content?" Maya was quiet for a long moment. When she finally answered, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I think I've been happy for the past 3 days." Alex turned to look at her and their eyes met. There was something in Maya's expression that made his heart race. It was the same look she had given him when she first walked into his apartment, but now he understood what it meant. "Maya," he started, but she held up her hand to stop him. "I know this is complicated," she said. "I know that people will think it's wrong or weird, or that I'm taking advantage of the situation. But I need you to know that my feelings aren't about guilt or pity or some need to fix what Lisa broke." "Then what are they about?" Maya moved closer to him on the couch. "They're about the fact that you're the first person I've ever met who makes me want to be brave. They're about how you treated me with kindness even when you found out I had been spying on you. They're about the way you listen when I talk, really listen. Like what I have to say matters." Alex felt something shifting inside his chest. For months, he had been convinced that he was broken, that there was something fundamentally wrong with him that had driven his wife away. But looking at Maya, seeing the way she looked at him like he was worth something, he started to believe that maybe he wasn't broken after all. "I feel the same way," he admitted. "These past few days with you, here I've remembered what it feels like to have someone actually care about my thoughts and feelings. Not just pretend to care, but really care." Maya reached out and took his hand. "So what do we do now?" Before Alex could answer, Maya's phone started ringing. They both looked down at the screen. Lisa's name was flashing across it. "Answer it," Alex said quietly. "It's time." Maya picked up the phone and looked at Alex one more time. He nodded encouragingly. "Hello, Lisa," Maya said, putting the phone on speaker so Alex could hear. "Finally!" Lisa's voice came through the speaker, sharp with anger. "Where have you been? I've been worried sick about you." "I'm fine," Maya said calmly. "I'm exactly where I need to be." "And where is that?" "Because Mom said she drove by your apartment and your car wasn't there." Maya looked at Alex and took a deep breath. "I'm at Alex's apartment. I've been here for 3 days." There was silence on the other end of the phone for several seconds. When Lisa finally spoke again, her voice was dangerously quiet. "What did you just say?" "You heard me correctly," Maya said, her voice stronger now. "I'm at Alex's place and we've been talking about some very interesting things I think you know about. Maya, whatever you think you're doing, you need to stop right now and come home. We need to talk." "No," Maya said firmly. "I think you and I are done talking for a while. But there is someone here who might have some things to say to you." Maya held out the phone to Alex. For a moment he hesitated. Then he thought about all the months of confusion and self-doubt, all the nights he had lain awake wondering what he had done wrong, all the times Ryan had offered him advice while secretly planning a future with his wife. Alex took the phone. "Hello, Lisa," Alex said, his voice steadier than he felt. The silence on the other end of the phone stretched for what felt like forever. When Lisa finally spoke, her voice had lost all its earlier anger and had become cautious, almost fearful. "Alex, what are you doing with my sister?" "Having some very enlightening conversations," Alex replied. Maya has been telling me some interesting stories about coffee shops and apartment buildings, about photos and secret meetings. Another long pause. Alex could almost hear Lisa's mind racing, trying to figure out exactly how much he knew. I don't know what Maya thinks she saw, but whatever she told you, you need to understand that she's always been jealous of our relationship. She's probably making things up to cause trouble. Alex looked at Maya, who was watching him with encouraging eyes. The old Alex might have doubted himself, might have wondered if Lisa was right. But the man sitting on this couch, who had spent 3 days remembering what it felt like to be valued and believed, wasn't going to be manipulated anymore. I've seen the photos, Lisa. All of them. Maya showed me the pictures of you and Ryan, together weeks before you filed for divorce. The silence this time was different. It was the silence of someone who had been caught and was trying to figure out how to get out of it. Those photos don't mean what you think they mean, Lisa said finally. Ryan was helping me through a difficult time. We were just friends. Friends who hold hands and kiss in coffee shops, Alex asked. Friends who spend afternoons in each other's apartments while one of them is still married? Alex, you're being ridiculous. You're letting Maya fill your head with crazy ideas because you can't accept that our marriage ended naturally. Alex felt a familiar anger rising in his chest, but this time it was clean anger. Righteous anger. Not the confused, self-directed frustration he had been carrying for months. Naturally, he said, his voice getting louder. You call lying to me for months natural? You call planning your next relationship while still sleeping in our bed natural? You call convincing me that I was the problem when you were the one cheating natural? I never cheated on you. Lisa's voice was sharp now, defensive. Ryan and I didn't start our relationship until after I filed for divorce. But you were planning it, Alex said. You were meeting with him, making arrangements, getting emotionally involved with him while you were still my wife. And the whole time, you were making me believe that I was the reason you were unhappy. Maya reached over and squeezed Alex's hand, giving him strength to continue. And then, Alex went on, you had the nerve to have your sister spy on me to make sure I wasn't going to cause problems for your new relationship. You turned Maya into your personal detective to keep tabs on how I was handling the divorce you orchestrated. Maya volunteered to help, Lisa said, but her voice was weaker now. She was worried about you too. No, Maya spoke up, leaning toward the phone. I helped because you convinced me that Alex was unstable and might do something dangerous. You made me believe I was protecting everyone, including him. But you were really just protecting yourself. Maya, you don't understand the whole situation, Lisa said, her voice taking on a pleading tone. There were problems in my marriage that you don't know about. Like what? Alex asked. Like the fact that I worked too many hours to pay for the house you wanted? Like the fact that I didn't want to go to every social event you planned? Like the fact that I wasn't Ryan? Lisa was quiet for several seconds. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Colder. Fine, she said. You want the truth? Yes, I fell in love with Ryan while we were still married. Yes, I planned to leave you for him. And yes, I let you think it was your fault because it was easier than dealing with the mess of admitting I had found someone better. Alex felt like he had been punched in the stomach, but at the same time, he felt relief. Finally, after months of confusion, he had the truth. Better? He asked quietly. Ryan understands me in ways you never did, Lisa continued, apparently deciding that since the truth was out, she might as well go all the way with it. He appreciates the things I care about. He doesn't make me feel like I'm asking for too much when I want nice things or a social life. He doesn't spend every evening hiding in his office or watching TV. Alex looked around his small apartment, remembering the house he used to share with Lisa. It had been beautiful and expensive, but it had never felt like home the way this simple place did. You're right, Alex said, surprising everyone, including himself. Ryan probably is better for you. He's someone who wants the same things you want, someone who values the same things you value. I hope you're happy together. The phone was quiet for a moment. Clearly, Lisa had been expecting a fight, not acceptance. But Lisa, Alex continued, what you did was still wrong, not because you Fell in love with someone else, but because you lied about it. You made me think I was failing as a husband when the real problem was that we just weren't right for each other. Alex? Lisa's voice was softer now, maybe even a little guilty. I spent months thinking there was something wrong with me, Alex said. I went to therapy. I read books about relationships. I analyzed every conversation we ever had, trying to figure out what I had done to push you away. And the whole time you were building a new life with my best friend. Maya squeezed his hand again, and Alex realized that talking about this didn't hurt the way he thought it would. It was like finally setting down a heavy bag he had been carrying for too long. I'm sorry, Lisa said quietly. I'm sorry I handled it that way. I was scared and I didn't know how to tell you the truth. And Ryan? Alex asked. Is he sorry too? Or is he still pretending to be my friend? Lisa was quiet for a long moment. Ryan feels terrible about the whole thing. He never meant for it to happen. Alex almost laughed. Right, it just happened. Love at first sight, I suppose. Alex, please. This doesn't have to be ugly. We can all move on from this like adults. Alex looked at Maya, who was watching him with an expression of pride and support. For the first time in months, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. You're right, he said. We can all move on. But Lisa, I need you to understand something. Maya isn't coming home tonight. She's not coming home tomorrow either. She's staying here as long as she wants to stay here, and you don't get to have an opinion about that anymore. Alex, she's my sister. And she's also an adult who can make her own decisions. She's been taking care of everyone else's feelings for years. Maybe it's time she started thinking about her own. Maya smiled at him, and Alex felt something warm and hopeful spread through his chest. Are you saying what I think you're saying? Lisa asked, her voice sharp again. Alex looked at Maya, who nodded encouragingly. I'm saying that Maya and I have discovered that we care about each other. I'm saying that for the first time in years, I'm with someone who makes me feel like the best version of myself instead of a problem to be solved. You can't be serious. She's my sister, and I was your husband, Alex replied calmly. But that didn't stop you from planning a future with my best friend. Lisa was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was tired. Fine, do whatever you want. But don't expect me to be happy about it. And don't expect our family to welcome you with open arms. I don't expect anything from you or your family, Alex said, but I do expect you to treat Maya with respect, regardless of how you feel about her choices. After Lisa hung up, Alex and Maya sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Maya spoke. Well, that went better than I expected, she said with a small laugh. Alex turned to look at her. Are you okay? I know that couldn't have been easy. Maya smiled, and for the first time since he had known her, it was a smile without any sadness or reservation behind it. I feel free, she said simply. For the first time in my life, I feel completely free. Alex leaned over and kissed her forehead gently. So, what do we do now? Maya curled up against his side on the couch. Now we figure out what our life looks like. Not the life anyone else wants us to have, but the life we want to build together. Outside, the sun was setting over the city, painting Alex's small apartment in warm golden light. It wasn't much to look at, this simple place with its basic furniture and minimal decorations. But as Alex sat there with Maya in his arms, he realized that sometimes the most beautiful things come in the simplest packages. For the first time in over a year, Alex felt like he was home,